a friend along to introduce to you today, and this is kind of off-piste introduction to my talk. And this, I don't know whether anybody recognises him. Does anybody recognise who he is? Not a single person. This is a sculpture by a very famous sculptor from kind of First World War times, and it's sold in America in an auction house for the highest price of any sculpture ever sold, and I think it was something crazy like $9 billion. It's ridiculous. It's actually taller than me. I've seen something. It's a Giacometti, some people say, and I really like him because his feet are kind of stuck in the mud, but he's trying to go forwards, and I love him so much because he kind of raises my spirit. It was like this in Reading Hydro project for years. We were trying to move forwards, but our feet were stuck in regulatory mud and red tape and all sorts of stuff like that. And the project just felt like it'd never go. But I never gave up the will to kind of, you can almost see his heels off the ground. It's just an amazing sculpture. And my wife calls it a picture of hope. So that's our thing. Reading Hydro went ahead, and I'm really happy about it. But it was like that. And for you, it might seem like saving energy is a bit like trying to move forwards and you've got your back heel off the ground, but the foot won't come with it. So when you think about saving energy, it is possible to do it. It does take hard work, determination, and lots of things. So we do the talk properly. You can cut that bit out when you edit it, because that's just good fun for the people that are here. So I trained as a research chemist, university, 6 years, 2 degrees. I became a builder, and then I retired, and I got involved in sustainability consultancy, which is kind of to do with energy and heat and building buildings that don't use too much materials, are maintenance free, stuff like that. And then we started doing draft proofing. Draft busters came to life probably about 8 years ago. And now there's several draft busters group, possibly one in Hungerford. Go for the next one. If you feel I'm going too fast, you can wait and slow me up. I'm good at slowing up, especially if you ask a question. So we're going to do basic principles of heat loss, and there's a very interesting thing. Because I've been to university, we have this thing called delta T, and delta T means the difference between outside and inside. That's delta T. It's a difference reading, so it's not the actual temperature that you've got, it's the difference between the two. And so the colder it is outside, the more heat you need to stay warm. The more expensive it is, the more energy used. The warmer it is inside, the higher your heat demand will be. So those two things are affecting our energy demand. So we need to reduce loss. We can do that by insulating. I've got some insulation samples in my bag today. This is foil board. For me, if you've got this stuff, it really needs to be about that thick. And I've got fiberglass. You should have that in your loft. In my loft, I've got 500 millimetres of that. And where it goes around the corner in the roof, I've got 400 millimetres. Where it goes down the wall, I've got 300 millimetres. I don't need a heating system. I paid for insulation once. I'm not. This stuff is really good under floors, polystyrene. Again, I like to see 100 millimetres, 200 millimetres. In Europe, they use this on the outside of their buildings regularly. In Germany, solid concrete building, usually 200 millimetres of that on the outside, and they can get to kind of passive house standard. Carry on, let's carry on. So managing storage heat, sorry, I'm kind of jumping about a bit. I just want to touch on this. I don't know, has anybody got storage heaters in here? Yeah, they're notoriously difficult to manage, and people moan about them being expensive. You really need to live in a well-insulated house to do them. There's some very good videos. We're not going to look at the video, but you can look at this one from the Energy Saving Trust, and that will help you. My view is that you nearly need to adjust a storage heater every week through the winter. So you start bringing it in, like if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on it, you bring it in September, maybe number 1 or number 2. October you get 3 and 4, November 5, and when you get to the really cold months you're on 6 and 7, and then coming back into the spring you turn it back down again. It doesn't work automatically. The modern ones, really kind of up-to-date ones, they don't need to do so much that. The old ones, you definitely need to do it. And so you have to be actively involved in managing them to get the best out of them. I often think that it might be better to not bother with them and just use a convector heater and have one room warm, and then in the bedroom you can use the storage heater plug to run your convector heater, but they make a little click noise, convector heater, so you could get annoyed with it. They are definitely expensive to run, although you use off-peak electricity to charge them. You're using it to heat the house for longer than you might actually want to. So when I had storage heaters, which was a very, very long time ago, I used to leave them and try and make them heat the house to 16 degrees, so my house was never really cold, and then I used to put a heater on to make it warm enough to sit, like 19 or something when I was first married. We did all sorts of strange things, like hot water twice a week. So, and my wife was very, very good at putting up with troublesome things, but I think we're going to be going back there now. Let's go to the next one. Oh no, we're not going to watch that video.
Okay.
You can find that video, you'll have the PowerPoint later. So
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll make the video available and the PowerPoint slides available through our website later.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about hot water. I've been talking to a friend of mine, and I said to him, he has a 4-minute shower, because he's got one of those egg timer things on it. And I said, you're old, you need to save a bit of money. I said, my advice for you is to have a 2.5-minute shower. You're now going to be saving 40% straight away, which is what you're achieving. I talked to him today, and he said, Tony, it's brilliant. I've been doing that now for 2 weeks. He said, I don't mind at all having a 2.5-minute shower. It's working for me. And he said, also, I've turned the flow rate down on the shower, so it's lower. And he said, I reckon I'm saving 55% and not 40%. And it's really kind of what you get used to. It's really nice. I don't know whether the teenage lads say it's nice to stand in the shower for half an hour and have a really good go, run the whole family out of hot water. But it's, in sustainability terms, you need to have a short one. At the drug rehab where I help, they talked about 4 minutes. Did I say this before? And we put on little valves on the hot water pipe in all of their showers. We've got it all web-linked. Michael, my man who was coming tonight, he did it. And what happens is after they've had a shower for 2.5 minutes, the valve on the hot pipe closes and the shower goes cold. And not only that, but you can see who had a shower and when. It's unbelievable on our website. It's kind of personal information that you shouldn't really know about. And they have to wait half an hour before they can reset it. So it's quite fun, hot water. But anyway, let's talk about hot water. The basic principle for me is to store hot water at the lowest possible temperature. Some very interesting research about this. And the whole of North America and Canada run their hot water cylinders at 50 degrees. Everybody says in England you're going to catch Legionella if you do that. Well, how come they haven't got Legionella in North America? We've got like a half a world of people that are doing it, and we still worry about Legionella. So I've been setting mine at 50 degrees basically all my life. I set the hot water temperature to 50 degrees, and sometimes it's slightly less than that. So you need a good thermostat on the hot water tank. I don't like to tell you this because I'm a bit nutty, but I had a family and we didn't like running out of hot water, so I run my hot water 24/7. It's really naughty to do that. I think it probably cost me £20 a year extra. There are several very good reasons for doing that. One is that if you heat the hot water cylinder up and let it cool slowly overnight, that maximises the amount of chalk, calcium carbonate, that forms in your hot water cylinder. If you run it at a constant temperature, you minimise the amount of chalking up of your hot water cylinder, so you can get 10 years extra out of your hot water cylinder, which is worth much more than £20 a year. So I was a research chemist, I understand all about this stuff to do with chalking up. It's kind of simple but complicated. Chalk is less soluble in hot water than it is in cold water, but it deposits really slowly. If you don't want it in your kettle, when you boil the kettle, rinse it right out and tip it out in the sink, and it won't form, because it forms as it cools, not as it boils, which is not what everybody thinks. But you shouldn't have any water left over after you've boiled the kettle anyway. It should be empty. So if you've got water left in the kettle, you're doing it wrong. So ultimately, we save quite a lot of energy by storing at the lowest possible temperature. And that people do worry about Legionella, but at 50 degrees, I've got a science paper that says you will not get Legionella in your hot water tank if you run 50 degrees constant. So we've even got it in the paper. They still don't do it. Let's go to the next one.
I noticed you said constant there.
Yeah.
So if you run it at 50 degrees and then dropping it and come back up 50, could you be prone to Legionella there?
Probably not, but what they would like you to do, the government would like you to...
repeat the question?
Sorry, the government...
Can you repeat the question?
If you run your hot water tank at 50 degrees but then let it cool in between and let it come back up to 50, are you at risk of Legionella? And my answer is no, because it's probably a copper hot water cylinder and the copper kills the Legionella. There's no daylight in there to help make it either, so it's a very hostile environment for Legionella. But the government would say you need to raise it up to 65 degrees once a week to kill Legionella. So I'm happy. I would rather that you ran it at 50 degrees
constantly?
Well,
Or
if you want to
peak
turn it off, it's up to you. You can turn it off, but I don't think you're going to get Legionella growing in there. You can have it tested. It's more likely to go in the tank in the loft than in the hot cylinder itself. Thank you. Problems with thermostats. I don't know who's got a thermostat, but quite a lot of thermostats are like dials on the wall that you twiddle round, and they're actually no more than an on-off switch. And you've probably if you've got a heating system, I haven't got a heating system anymore, but I used to have one. Many people have these things, and you can have twice on, twice off. Sounds like a good regime, and you've got the thermostat on also. It's either twice on, twice off, and the thermostat is at, let's say, 21. So now we're into a regime where you've got control over the time and the temperature, but you've only got one temperature unless you're going to go and twiddle the thermostat. And as I say, most people turn it this way for off and that way for on. And yeah, there we go. Often simply functions as a on-off switch. This hysteresis means that when the temperature comes up to 20 degrees, it overshoots a bit and then comes back down. And that little hump is wasted energy. You didn't want it, and so you want something a bit more accurate than a thermostat that doesn't have hysteresis. Some of these clever things, this is not a thermostat, this is a programmable room thermostat, and it will actually notice the temperature's coming up and it will slow it down as it gets towards the temperature you want. Let's go for the next one. You can shout out questions during this. Sorry, I keep wandering out the screen. So, my advice for running a heating system is when you get up in the morning, no matter how old you are, switch your heating on to 18 degrees. This little thing here, it's got lots of gizmos and gizmos inside it. It's called a Honeywell, probably now a T4, and it can bring you in 18 degrees every morning while you're getting up, and then depending what you're doing, if you're going out, whack it down 16 or 15 or something, and then in the afternoon, if you're elderly like me, you probably want 19 and a half, and then when you sit down in the evening doing nothing, 21. If you're really elderly, you might want 21 a lot more of the day, so you need to be careful. Don't listen to me. You need to listen to what your body's doing, and don't be cold. Wear some extra clothes. So this thing is called a programmable room thermostat, and it will pay for itself within the first year, because the difference between 18 and 21 is probably something like 10% of your heating bill. So you're saving 10% of the heating bill while you're getting up in the morning. You don't really need it to be 21 when you're getting dressed, going to work. I think probably most of you, by the look at us, we're not working anymore, but when I'm active, I don't need it 21. It's okay to be 18, but you have to work out your own time. So, by a programmable set, there are also things called app-based controllers, which we'll get on to in a few minutes and come back to them. Mike was the real expert on them, and he was my mate coming tonight, not going to be here. Carry on.
Tony, just before we move slide, why you've got the notice there, beware of wireless control.
Oh yeah, okay.
Why beware?
Yeah, some of these things are wireless and they communicate with a box fixed. They, in my opinion, they're prone to problems. The wireless connection's not that brilliant, and they can break down and you wonder what's happening. So you're relying on it. You can try it and see how you get on. I prefer it to be fixed on the wall and hardwired in the back to the boiler, so it's actually controlling the boiler rather than this thing talking with a wireless connection. My house has got a lot of concrete and reinforcing in it, so the wireless signal doesn't work too well. But I haven't got things, so just watch it. I would choose a hardwired one rather than wireless one. The wireless one, you can take it around and put it on your office desk and measure the temperature in there. Nearly came to life. Or you can take it in the kitchen or the room with you. And the other reason to beware of it is because if you try to make the bedroom 21, if I had designed the heating system, I designed the bedroom to be 18 and the lounge to be 21 by the size of the radiator point in the room. So now if you go into the bedroom as your office and make it 21 in there, the lounge will be 24 or 25. And you will have a heating bill that's probably 15% higher than you want it while you were with your wireless controller in the wrong room that it wasn't designed for. So we'll get a bit more onto those controls later.
But when you talk about app-based controllers, aren't they wireless?
Not necessarily. Depends how they're wired up. They go wireless to your phone, but they're probably going Wi-Fi rather than wireless. I don't know what the difference between Wi-Fi and wireless is, but it's maybe the same thing. Not that clever. Let's go on to the next question quickly.
Yeah. Well, basically, yeah, for a Wi-Fi smart thermostat, yeah, it's using the Wi-Fi to communicate with the thermostat.
Yeah.
And the thermostat may then be wired to the boiler or wireless to the boiler.
Yeah.
on a dedicated thing.
Yes, sorry, we're outside of my comfort zone. Go for the next one.
We could tell.
So thermostatic radiator valves, I've had a slight change of heart on this today because I've been talking to another friend. I'm good at talking to friends. But I'm not a big fan of thermostatic radiator valves because I used to be a central heating system designer, and as I said, I designed the lounges 21, bathroom 21, kitchen 18, bedrooms 18, hallways 18, and I fit the radiator to make the house balance at that. If you take one radiator out and switch it off, you destroy the balance between the house. You make that one room cold, and so it could be that condensation goes in there and you could run into problems. The house likes to be nice and warm everywhere. So that's why I'm not a fan of thermostatic radiator valves. Also, I used to make thousands of pounds profit changing them because the little pin that goes inside them sticks when it's in the summer. It goes down, and when the winter comes and the thing says, oh, I'm a bit cold, the pin stays stuck down and won't go up. You have to change the radiator valve. I've done it in the doctor's surgery twice, the whole lot, and it was quite a nice earner for me. And I said to him, why don't you just have normal ones? And I think in the end they just said, we'd take the heads off and pull the pin up and we'll have normal ones. The idea of unheated rooms leaves me cold, so I'm worried about unheated rooms. But there are some really clever thermostatic radiator valves which we've been talking about over there, which are app-based, and I've got pictures on my mobile phone, but you can talk on your phone to the different rooms and tell them what temperature you want it to be, and all this thing that this one does for the whole house, those app-based, I'm not sure what they're probably called, Hive radiator valves, let's say they are. They can control different temperatures, different rooms, different times and everything. The one thing I would kind of be a little bit aware of is that your boiler is trying to make heat and it doesn't know when it doesn't need any heat from these kind of app-based controllers. The thermostatic radiator valves are all shut. The boiler's still thinking, I'm switched on, I'm trying to make heat, so it's doing what's called cycling. It's heating up, thermostat in the boiler goes off and it's going down because it's only trying to do the downstairs cloakroom or something. I don't know what it's doing. So you really need to make sure your control system is suitable for the thermostatic radiator valves you're using. It's kind of bypass loop and there's different things you can put on. And you remember I was talking about storage heaters and turning them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you've got a boiler, which I don't have, but if people have got a boiler, I say to them, September, go number 1 on the boiler thermostat. That's the thermostat which is inside the boiler. And then when it comes to November, you turn it up to number 2 or 3, and then in the very cold weather, you go up to 4 and 5, and then back it down again. So you're modulating the power of the boiler manually yourself to tell it to be at the lowest possible temperatures and make your house just as warm as you need it. And that's a really clever balance. If you can keep that boiler temperature nice and low, it does more condensing, saves you more energy, and works better, your gas bill's lower. Go for the next one. I hope I'm not going to go on too long with this. So this is a little bit of science now. I've talked about the temperature here, which is the temperature we want in the house. I'm saying for us it's 20, you might have 21, you might have 19 and a half, whatever. But that line is kind of fixed. The bottom line is the outdoor temperature, and it's never the same and constant. But if that was our house, then this area represents our energy demand, and that represents how much we pay. So we want to make this area as small as possible, because then we pay the least, we're using the least energy, we're wasting the least amount of whatever it is, gas or oil or whatever you've got, electricity. So how can we do that? Well, we can bring that down. We can say, okay, then I want to bring that down to 19. And we make the area in there smaller. It's really good. If we want to bring this up, one of the ways of bringing that ambient temperature outside up is to insulate. So if you insulate, like I've insulated so much that outside that my whole house loses 100 watts in October, so it's like, it's not really worth worrying about. And it's so clever to do insulation, it effectively brings that bottom one up. Let's go for the next one. And so this is what I'm saying to you. When I say get up and have, or this is nighttime, 16, breakfast, 18, gone out, come back, lunchtime, 18, kids come home, we want to sit down, watch TV, something, 20, and then back down. And you can see, if we flick back 2 slides, you can flick back 2 slides, please.
Back to the
Yeah, that's it. So that's it. Maybe it's just one. So this one, watch that one compared with the one we're going to get to. Yeah, that's it. So you can see the area is so much smaller, and this is our saving. And you can kind of roughly estimate what that is. It's actually, unfortunately, it's different every day, those areas and things. But on average, you can see that I think that's probably like maybe 20%, 25% saving by having this kind of thing. And so I think all of us want to do that. And so long as you're comfortable, then do it.
So does your thing about putting the hot water on all the time, would you say the same with heating?
Very good question. The thing I said about hot water being on all the time, would I say the same sort of thing for heating? And I think my answer is yes. I used to run my heating system 24/7, but I used these temperatures. I had a thing called an optimizer, which is an old-fashioned version of Hive. But my heating system never used to come on at night because I set it to 14, and it would come on when it was really, really cold outside. I'd hear the boiler, I'd kind of jump out of bed and think, crikey, what's going on? The pipes are making a noise and the boiler's on. And it'd be like 2 or 3 times a year, literally. So if you're in a terraced house or a solid brick house, the temperature doesn't fall below 14 usually. So I quite like that. I don't like it if the temperature, in a modern timber frame house, the temperature in the morning without heating on can be 7 degrees. And I think that's like socially unacceptable. I wouldn't put up with it. I can't cope with too big a temperature fluctuations. But so I would say run the heating system all the time. Yes, you need to be able to afford it, but the majority of the time the heating will not come on at night because the house is thermally stable enough not to be falling in temperature to make it want to come on. And then these kind of things, again, these ones, if you've been there for breakfast at 18, the heating will be following that kind of line coming down. So although I've done it as a step because it's switched off, the heat in the house will be coming down gradually to this line. It may come on for an hour in very cold weather just before you want to pump it back up. So it's a personal choice. The bottom line in all this is that it's you that is in control of your heating system, your energy bill and your temperatures, and you need to manage it and control it yourself. I can't do it for you. Some of these clever things, these are helping, like they're thinking for you a bit, but they still can't work out if you go away on holiday. I say to people, don't switch your heating system off. I say, just let's go down and say it's going to be 12 degrees or 10 degrees or 8 degrees. This one's automatically programmed to be 8 degrees. If you go away on holiday and your house hits 8 degrees, this will just switch the heating on. And so it's thinking for you and saving you burst pipes, all sorts of things like that.
Tony, is it fair to say that the talk you gave last time about preparing your house, insulating, draft-proofing, is the first thing to do before you do this?
Yeah, number 1 is draft proofing, number 2 is insulating, and then number 3 is probably heating controller. So we're kind of getting a bit advanced now. I've mentioned insulation, so let's go for the next slide, please. Yeah, possible savings from 15 to 30%, depending on how good you are at wearing a hair shirt or pullover or whatever, or thick socks. Then you can definitely achieve 15% easily. 30% is you have to work hard to do that. I quite like having something called a heating system budget. I don't expect any of you to do it. I've seen people who do it, and they know how much they can spend on heating, and they work out each day how much they've spent, and then feed that back into the budget and think, crikey, I can't afford this, I need to do something to reduce it. So you can either shorten the time the heating's on, take the temperatures down, wear more clothes, do things, insulate, draft proof, all those things can help you.
So please hold that thought for my talk on smart meters.
Yeah, good, okay. Yeah. So there is something I'd like to mention about this. There's something which you can look up which are called heating degree days, and they are very useful for doing this calculation that I've just talked about, because you can't really do it on a day-to-day basis on a level line. In the winter it gets kind of, I'm going to go underneath, it gets colder and colder and colder, and then gets spring warmer and warmer and warmer. And so you need to factor in the fact that you're going to use more energy as the winter gets colder, and that table of heating degree days is really useful to work out that your heating bill is not just a straight line or level, it's not equal portions. It's got this normal distribution curve, roughly speaking, so you take the chunks and you've got to allow more money when it's really cold than when it's really... So it's quite complicated, I'm afraid, working it out. It's hard work. If you're lucky, you can just do it a year at a time and then it automatically evens out. Go for the next one.
Go.
Oh, heating degree again.
Sorry, do you want to...
I did that. No, so I did that without realising it. Look at that. That's
okay.
exactly what I said without knowing that was the next slide. Sorry. So... these are statements I make on social media stuff. I said, encouraging an EPC gives a handle on heating energy demand. So if you've got an EPC for your home, an energy performance certificate, it gives you an idea of what you roughly should be spending. But this is what I'm saying, the heating energy use is determined by the household. It doesn't matter what the energy performance certificate says. If you sit in your lounge at 24 degrees, you're going to be having a very big heating bill. And I've been into people in energy poverty and they're walking about in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm thinking, crikey, I don't even want to come into this house because ladies in shorts and t-shirts and a draft buster is not really a mixable thing. But the house is 24 degrees. I say, like, why am I even coming here? If you can afford 24 degrees in your house and it's winter, I don't know that you really need my help. So energy saving is in our hands. Technology can help, but we need to tell it what to do. So if you've got an app-based controller, it doesn't do it for you. You need to be telling it and deciding. I have some very interesting conversations with people about what should a design temperature be, what should the target temperature be in a public library, what should it be in a school, what should it be in the council building. And I've been into libraries where it's been like 24 degrees and written to the local authority and said, I think you're too warm. It's costing me my rates to pay for heating in the library at 24. It only should be 21 or 22. And I'm sure the staff love walking about in summer clothes in the winter, but it's not right. So what temperature do you like your bedroom? Is 16 good? Is 18 good? Is 14 okay? And I think when we're asleep under a duvet, I'm quite happy with it, quite cold. And some people have window open 24/7. But you need to make that decision. I can't help you with it. And in the daytime, if you're older, you shouldn't be sitting shivering. You need to have it warm enough so you're not sitting shivering. But whether that sitting shivering happens, the older we get, the warmer it needs to be. So you could get to a place where you need it to be 23 in your lounge. If you cut the drafts out, hopefully it'll be 22, and that's really my maximum. 21 is better. I think that might be the end of my talk. I've probably done it quicker than we thought. What have we got here? Here we go. I usually got this picture of my old boy from Draft Busters. I hope I didn't tell you about him last time. But he had a little booklet, and he'd sit there every day working out how much he could spend on his heating. And I was very impressed. I've kind of alluded to that in saying that you should have a heating budget and try and work it out how much you can spend each day. And I think that's for everybody. So he went from being 20 minutes before Draft Busters to being 3 hours a day with his gas fire on in the evening. He loved it because he didn't really want to be more than 3 hours in the evening watching TV before he went to bed. And I think that's a major result. And I was very impressed with him that he was in energy poverty. He controlled what he was spending. He knew what he was spending, and he was on the case of it, and he was living very, very sensibly. And he used to be a chef. Like, he wasn't a sustainability expert. He was just a practical, ordinary guy. I took a photograph of his book and put it on Draftbusters' website.
What did you provide as help to get into that?
He was living in a very drafty house with an air brick in the top of his lounge, which was for the gas boiler, and you could see daylight through it, and it was this size, 9 inches by 9 inches, and he had one in his bedroom in the door, which was like a back door type door, again 9 inches by 9 inches, completely open, so the draft just blew through the two. He's sitting like basically in a wind tunnel. And the worst thing is the one in the lounge being high up, because it was letting all the heat straight out, and then the one in the bedroom was wishing it in. If they'd have been the other way around, he might have had cold feet and a warm body. But he had loads of other drafts, but he was an unusual
So you
case.
went through the draft proofing?
Yeah, we did the whole draft proofing for him, and that's why he changed from being 20 minutes to 3 hours. It's a very big result for us. Yeah, next one. I don't think it's going to be...
So questions time.
Oh yeah, go on then. If you've got questions, are we allowed to do questions before
Of course,
you start?
carry on.
Yeah.
My boiler is up in my loft.
Yeah.
So my little heating control, I keep in the lounge, and so I just turn that to, well, I've got it programmed vaguely. I need a lesson on how to program it properly. Yeah. But if it's too cold, I can up it a tiny bit, or if I feel it's too hot, I can...
Lovely. Okay, yeah. So we have a boiler in the loft and thermostat in the lounge. Is that one of these radio ones, or is it fixed on the wall or programmer?
It's program. It's very like that.
Yeah,
it's
lovely.
a programmer one, so I can move it as I want it. But generally, I keep it in the lounge.
Yeah, that's it.
And where I've got radiators, I've got them with the
thermostatic radiator.
But I can
good.
put it to what I need.
Lovely.
So like the bedroom, it's very low.
Yeah. I like it that you're active, you're on the case, and that you know how to do it. Make sure that the pipes near the boiler are insulated, It's not
yes,
too bad.
It's all good up there.
Yep, sounds good. New type boilers, condensing boilers. Generally, the boiler, the case is cold. Old-fashioned boilers, they would lose 10% of the heat to the room they're in. So whatever room they were in was always really warm. But the new ones, they don't lose nearly so much heat.
It's not very new, but I think it's been sorted, so it's okay. And I've just had the insulation and everything upgraded in the loft, so all being well.
Yeah. So the best thing for one of these is either a YouTube video, or better still is a teenager. We've got probably one back.
We need to borrow one then.
Any more questions? It's good, isn't it? Sorry, yeah?
With your chat with the gas fire, how did you vent the gas fire then? Because weren't they you have to have air?
Yeah, you do have to have air, and you're not allowed to block up air bricks for the gas fire. And I'm probably not telling it right, I think he had a gas boiler and an electric fire, and it was the electric fire that was on in the thing, and the gas boiler used to be a back boiler with a chimney, and they changed it for a condensing boiler in his kitchen. They didn't close the air bricks, and so when they took that out, they didn't have a gas fire there anymore. He used to have an electric fire. Sorry, it's a long time ago since I did him, but I'm sure he had two different forms of heating, and one was gas, one was electric. Thank you, but don't block up air bricks if you need it for combustion air.
You won't need it for very long.
I go to prison if I do that. Done it. You're in, mate.
Excellent. Sure. Any further questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, so thank you very much, Tony.